but let's put that back to disabled, and let's move on to the next section. Auto recloser, in case you're using that. What you do is you go to controls enabled, and set AR mode to activated. You then go to control functions, and there you set this AR enabled in setting group enabled, and require manual resetting. Generally, you can have this object close command resets. Object for AR. So with this, you choose which of the objects that you have set up previously is this giving the open and close commands to. And then you just go to AR request, and you choose the functions that start the auto reclosing sequence, that is. And let's activate a couple of shots. And because it is using the trip signal, we don't need to use a starting delay because the trip signals are already opening the breaker. And let's set the dead time delay with this 0.3 second setting. The breaker is kept open for 0.3 seconds, and then it is given a close command. Then let's set the object reclaim time. So now that it's set to 10 seconds, after closing the breaker, it will wait for 10 seconds if there is a new trip signal coming again. If it doesn't, the fault is cleared, and it will go back to the beginning and keep the breaker closed. If there is a trip during this 10-second delay or reclaim time, it will move on to the next shot. And here, if we set something like 60 seconds, the breaker is opened once again, but this time for 60 seconds, and then closed once again. And the same goes here if there's a trip. Once more in these 10 seconds, there will be a final trip. But if there is no trip during these 10 seconds after closing the breaker, it will reset itself. Then I don't think I'm going to go through fault locator or the CTS. Disturbance recorder, this is really important to set up. You can do it at the monitoring, and we have a disturbance recorder tab. First, you set up recorder trigger, and this is the trip signal, usually the trip signals of the protection functions that you're using. Then you set up the recording length. So let's put something like 6 seconds, for example, and pre-triggering time to 5 seconds. So with these settings, the total time of the recording is 6 seconds, but in that recording, 5 seconds in the recording is from before the tripping happened, and the rest of the 6 seconds, so 1 second, is then after this trip occurred. Recording mode, first in, first out. So when the recording memory is full, the max amount has been reached, it will just start deleting the old ones to make room for new ones. Uh, Annual example rate you can just keep at 64 seconds, and the same for digital channels. And by default, usually the analog channels have been chosen, so voltages and currents. And record digital channels in there, you should at least put the trip signals and the start signals of each of the functions that you're using, and it's also really good to put the status of the objects that you control with this device. If you set AutoGet recordings to enabled, uh, these uh, these recordings are sent to the Relays FTP server, and you will be able to load them from here if you connect to this relay with an FTP client. But if you don't use that, if we have this disabled, we are able to load the recordings in memory from Disturbance Recorder, and by clicking these DR files, and then the files will be saved to this path that you have set up here. Or then this get DR files will load all of the recordings in memory, but if you want to read a specific one, you can then take this recording list from where you just load the ones that you need. Launch AQ Viewer, I'm not going to go through that, but you can use that for actually viewing these recordings. Mimic Editor, in there, Tools, Mimic Editor, you can draw by simply clicking on a box and then you choose a symbol or an object. And then on the right side, we have this area for setting up this measurement view. You can also disable it with this use measurements thingy here, but then you can add rows, add or remove rows, change the prefix, and choose a measurement from the list. And then when you're done, you click Export and write the relay and click Mimic and then write. Or you click Send to Relay from here. If you want to change the symbols between IEC and ANSI, you can do it from here. So as you see, it changes to ANSI and back. Carousel Designer. So here you get to choose which kinds of views are available in the device when you scroll to the right and to the left. So with the minus you can remove, or with the plus you can add, and then choose from the list what kind of view do you want there. When you're done, you click Export, close this, Commands, write to Relay, and Mimic. In some cases, it is needed that you wait, what was I about to say?